Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Starmen Talk the Talks. I'm your host, Dev, and with me this time is Curtis.
Hey, folks. Been a little while since done one of these, I think.
Yeah. Welcome back to the room, Curtis.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So, Curtis, since you're the guest, I offered you the chance to pick the topic.
Yep.
You gave me two suggestions.
Yep.
Mario RPGs and Zelda.
Yeah.
And we're going with Zelda because, believe it or not, I don't know too much about the Mario RPG sagas. I know the Super NES. I played a few of the Game Boy Advance, DS and ones, but
Okay, yeah.
they weren't really my favorite thing to do.
The Mario and Luigi's?
Yeah.
You like the papers?
Paper's good. I do like the paper's up to a point.
Yeah, up to
Actually, after Fasten Your Door, I kind of drop off.
I think that's a lot of folks' experience.
Yeah. Like, Super wasn't bad, but it just felt more Mario-ish than a Paper Mario-ish.
It really did, yeah.
And then the rest just got too gimmicky.
Yeah, yes, unfortunately.
But that's beside the point. We're Zelda.
Yeah, another series is the focus of this topic, so yeah.
So, quick question for you. What was your first Zelda game?
My first was Link to the Past.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got in with the original.
I think I knew that.
Yeah. And I will still stand by that as a good game, even today.
A lot of people agree. My hot take is that and this is, I think, because I got in later, quite a bit later, it's not very high on my list of personal favorites.
No.
I recognize the merits, and I see why people love it, but my NES Zelda was actually Star Tropics.
Yeah.
So, pretty different game, but that was my, I guess, foray into the genre of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is a pretty, miraculous game. And groundbreaking game for its time, to say the least.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is that the save feature was not great.
A little lacking, but that was the case for a lot of NES games, to be fair. What were your favorite features or aspects of that game?
I liked the exploration and just not overly knowing where to go.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
I guess for me, like yes, and that is by far the coolest thing about it. I guess for me, what I didn't like as much about it is I liked the characters and creatures of Zelda, I guess, and there just wasn't really much in terms of characters beyond generic NPCs with NES style dialogue and hints. There's a bit of personality with some of them, like the grumble, moblin, stomach rumbling, and some things like that. But there's not really much in the way of identifiable characters, if you know what I mean.
No, NPCs were not a thing, really.
They really weren't.
There was just the old man and then the occasional enemy that's not actually your enemy.
Yeah.
And the shopkeeper.
Yeah.
Buy something, will ya?
Exactly.
I thought he's more demanding than he need to be.
Very pushy shopkeeper.
And then you go into one shop. Boy, this sure is expensive. You're selling it.
Nothing like.
Boy, I'm sure raking you over the coals on this one.
Nothing like giving the sales pitch.
Yeah.
Hey man, this is really expensive.
Yeah.
It's up to you whether you're going to buy this, but I'm just saying it's really expensive. Might be able to forge it out in the wild.
Yeah. No. I also like that dungeon items weren't necessary to beat the dungeon boss.
That is awesome.
That's become kind of a trope with all the Zeldas.
It certainly has.
Yeah.
There's a few exceptions, but there's definitely a lot of Zeldas that fall into that exact same gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not really a whole lot of combat. They all feel like puzzle encounters a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They can be very cinematic and enjoyable puzzle encounters, but there's just not a whole lot of room for experimentation in them.
No. You have to do it this way or you lose.
Yeah, you're a little bit limited there.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, there will be a gimmick weapon, like you can bounce their fireballs back with a magic net or the fishing rod or whatever. Yeah. Good times there, I guess.
Yeah. It's fun when you find those. It's like, oh yeah, I can just use the fishing or bug catching net to reflect your evil blast instead of my sword.
Yeah, the legendary master sword or this average bug catching net. Yeah, that's pretty great, I gotta say. I think it's Twilight Princess where you can like just dangle the fishing rod in front of Ganondorf and he just kind of stares at it for a while. As if he's like hypnotized.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there, Ganon? You alright?
He's more like baffled. Like, what are you doing?
Maybe that's it. What? He just says nothing. Yeah, he just kind of shuts down.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the hero that's supposed to defeat me?
And he's busting out a fishing rod. Okay, here we go.
Okay, we're doing this now.
Give me 30 seconds to process this.
I'm just gonna need some time here.
Yep, just a bit.
Alright, so we know our entry points. What's our favorite Zeldas?
My favorite would be Majora's, I think. There's
I
some close
know
contenders.
you love that game.
I really do love it.
I'm not a huge fan of it.
And I know exactly why. There's a lot of reasons why it would push people away, and they're totally valid. That time limit, an instant turn off for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
What I like about it is the time limit isn't such a big deal if you learn to ignore it and manage it. It becomes, instead of a thing to dread and work against, it becomes a tool to make the world feel more alive by letting you know over the course of the game what any given NPC is doing at this time of day and learning more about their daily lives within these 3 days.
Yeah.
So this game is the opposite of the original Zelda in that there's not many dungeons. The items aren't all that amazing or remarkable, except the masks, which are the kind of the key tool of the game. But what it really has in spades is characters and side stories and just kind of interactions with learning about the world and how it works.
So yeah, this was definitely focused more on the NPCs than on the dungeons.
Absolutely.
And I can respect that. I like the idea of that.
Yeah.
I just, like, the two things, as you said, is I don't like the time limit, and I don't like having to be at a certain place at a certain time.
I like that.
And if you don't make it, you mess up and you have to start all over again.
There were a few problematic events of that nature where it would really suck to screw up right now. I will admit that.
Yeah.
There was some nice aspects of the remake where it lets you speed through things a little bit better, and it keeps track of things a little bit better than the N64 original, but it's still a problem. You can screw up the Anju Cafe Epic Marriage side quest pretty easily if you push a few wrong blocks at the end there, and then have to start it all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, but I will say what is there for dungeons as well. There's some very, very good ones. In fact, the fourth dungeon, Stone Tower Temple, may be my favorite in this series.
Yeah.
It's the one that lets you flip the temple upside down with light arrows.
Yep.
And there's some, beyond that, really cool mechanic. There's a lot of really cool, like, boss or mini boss encounters and just puzzles in general in that dungeon. And the music is really cool.
I love the atmosphere of it.
It's just so mysterious and weird. It almost feels like you're in another world while you're in that dungeon.
Yeah. Like, the overall Majora's Mask, I love that atmosphere.
It's great. Yeah, that's a big part of it, right? Like the sense of impending doom, the foreboding atmosphere of that moon looming above you at all times. It's really got a feel to its own for sure among the Zelda games.
If I had to pick my favorite one, I would go probably with Link to the Past.
It's a great choice.
Yeah. Especially if you know about the randomizer, and now that game is unlimited potential.
Yeah. The forever game for you now.
I'll catch myself. Maybe once a week I'll attempt to run on a randomizer.
Yeah.
And then I found the Zelda Metroid crossover randomizer.
It lets you kind of play through both Super and
Zelda.
Link to the Past simultaneously, where you're jumping between rooms in each, right?
Yeah.
And finding items in each game that can potentially just be used in the other one and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much longer run, but I find it more enjoyable because of how random it can be.
And if you're familiar with both games, that's a big
Yeah, you have to be familiar with both games or you're going to get
stuck. Otherwise, you're going to just be like, I don't know what is happening here. Yeah. What do you like the most about Link to the Past, would you say? Like, what's your favorite aspects of it?
That's hard to say. It's just, it felt long enough. Like, it had the 3 Light World dungeons and then the 7 Dark World dungeons, and then Ganon's Tower and Hyrule Tower.
It's so rich in dungeons.
Yeah.
I want nothing more in the world than a modern 3D Zelda that dare to have that many dungeons again.
Yeah.
That would just be like that might be the ultimate Zelda game right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a lot of cool boss fights in it too. Like it feels like the Zelda game that informed what pretty much all of them after it would become. It's just the way that you navigate the world and how combat works, how side quests work, and finding heart pieces and all your other stuff. Like, it just feels like every Zelda game after borrowed from it to some extent, right?
Yeah. Alright, then least favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, so this is a weird one for me then. There's one I haven't played that I expect I wouldn't like, so I'll name it, but I won't say anything more about it. Triforce Heroes, I really have no interest in playing.
I have never played it, so I can't say anything about it.
I haven't either. Like I said, like it's like a multiplayer only one, and apparently it's got some less than enjoyable things in it. But I digress. I think the least enjoyable are the ones I played. Hot take. I just don't really like Breath of the Wild all that much.
No, it's not the worst Zelda in my mind, but it didn't do anything really for me.
Calling it the worst is harsh. It's just the one I like the least of the ones I played, I guess.
I think it's my third least favorite.
Okay. What would your least favorite be, first of all?
Spirit Tracks.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I could, it was the flute mechanic.
Right.
And I just couldn't, get that to work, and then the whole game fell apart after that.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Phantom Hourglass, and then this game, and I wasn't really wanting more of that.
No.
And so I too fell off Spirit Tracks pretty hard.
Yeah.
It is down there for me as well. Probably my second least favorite, I guess. Yeah. Breath of the Wild, it's a game that obviously resonated with a lot of people, so that it is what it is. For me, I just wanted a tighter design, of actual dungeons, like
not just puzzle rooms,
not just exactly quick puzzle rooms, and then 4 kind of relatively quick, bigger puzzle rooms, I guess you'd say, in those Divine Beasts. They just didn't feel like a traditional Zelda dungeon to me, even if that's what they're trying to emulate.
Yeah.
And you really didn't get much in the way of new equipment after the first island. You got all your main tools just
right out the gate,
and then there really wasn't much else out there to find except breakable weapons and and orbs to increase your HP, and useless useless up to a point, or after a certain point, those seeds as well.
Yeah.
So I just didn't really feel compelled to see it all the way through. I think I played through the first Divine Beast, and there's some stuff in that game I'd like to see, but it just the thing as a whole just did not grab me.
No.
Unfortunately. I have high hopes that the sequel will kind of do what we were talking about earlier there, where we would get as that kind of overworld, but with a bunch of giant ass dungeons to find. Can you imagine Breath of the Wild with 10 plus epic dungeons from a Ocarina or whatever in it? That would be amazing to me.
That'd be great. I understand why you couldn't do that. Maybe now with today's technology we could.
It depends on your focus, right?
Yeah.
I guess I really don't know what they've been focusing on with their with the time that they've worked on the sequel for, but in my mind, just scrap all those puzzle shrines. I don't know if that's
or combine them into one. Or a few. You can make a dungeon out of them, really.
Sure, why not? Yeah. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with it. Like the physics-based puzzles are really cool. Just if that's all there is in terms of dungeons, really, then it just doesn't stick with me for very long.
No.
So, yeah.
And I mean, you can condense the world a little bit.
I certainly wouldn't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need overly sprawling worlds.
No.
Like work within the content that you've got. You know, like don't make it big for just the sake of being big.
Yeah.
Those are my hopes for a sequel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Zelda game that's shockingly surprised you.
It surprised me? In terms of like quality or what?
In quality or like, you're like, this is actually really good or fun.
Let me think here. That would probably be, I guess, Minish Cap, maybe?
I was thinking the same thing. Minish Cap actually shockingly surprised me.
It's pretty solid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it kind of came out in a very unassuming manner. Like, just here it is on the GBA. I think like the DS was nearly or already out. I can't remember which it was, but Minish Cap was like I think it was one of the very last probably GBA games that Nintendo would have put out. I think, and not really much fanfare that I can recall around it.
No, I didn't hear much about it, but I just saw it at a shop one day, and I was like, I guess I'll try it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was, I was curious enough because it's a Zelda game, but I didn't really know what to expect, and very pleasantly surprised with just the overall quality of the game in terms of like dungeons and exploring the world. All felt very good. The shrinking mechanic was pretty neat too. There was some neat boss fights built around. Oh, it's just actually, you know what? Thinking back on it, like I think several of the bosses were just like, this is a normal enemy, but you're tiny as hell.
Yeah.
You have to beat this.
Yeah.
Here's a completely ordinarily non-threatening Choo-Choo or Octorok.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing about them that would be scary whatsoever if you were normal size, but because
you are
small, it is a titanic encounter. Yeah, that was neat.
The medallion mechanic was hit or miss with me.
Yeah, the kinstone stuff.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like busy work, right?
Yeah.
It's been so long. What were the rewards for even doing that, do you know?
I forget, kinda.
Was it just collectibles?
I think it was just collectibles for the most part.
That's how you got like the figurines,
yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
I think there might have been a heart piece if you did so many.
Yeah, okay. That would check out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an extremely solid 2D Zelda in the end.
Yeah.
I guess another one that kind of shocked me with how much I enjoyed it was Link Between Worlds.
Oh yeah.
Like obviously, if it's based on Link to the Past, there's going to be a certain standard of quality that you hope for. But even so, like I was surprised by just how many changes and like really cool changes that they made to the world of Link to the Past and the dungeons. They all felt completely different somehow, even though it was clearly the same world.
Yeah.
And they had some really creative twists with like a boss from the previous game or from Link to the Past was like remixed in a super cool way for the new one. So
yeah,
I liked a lot about that game that I didn't. I expected to like it to some degree going into it, given its pedigree, but it was really, really good.
Alright, so we gotta kind of talk about this, is the Link's Awakening.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, we kind of have to put that on hold for a bit, because I guess the Game Boy one wasn't as great as we thought it would be.
For me, I'll always love it, but I know it has some rough edges.
Yeah.
I guess you'd say.
See, it was a childhood favorite of mine, that's why I wanted to play it.
I adore that game, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys just ran into some problems with face shrine, I guess, was
it? Yeah. It was just we're always stuck navigating improperly.
Yeah.
It just felt like we never knew where exactly to go.
Right.
And so I want to talk about it because the one for the Switch that just came out actually surprisingly shocked me more than it should have. I was so happy with all the changes, quality of life changes. Like, your sword is now a dedicated button, so is your shield.
You're right. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. Like, you don't understand how important that actually is.
Yeah, it's a pretty big game changer, I've got to say.
Yeah.
I love the atmosphere and just music and overall feel of the original.
Yeah.
But in terms of playability, I would recommend the new Switch version every single time.
Yeah.
Easily.
Much more easier.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot of stuff that it smooths over in those rough edges for sure.
Alright, so we'll have to do with final thoughts and call the episode. So final thoughts.
Well, I guess we didn't say it up front, but Zelda's one of my favorite series of all time for sure. It's up there with your with the Mega Man, Castlevania pedigree for me. I guess Soul series as well for modern, but I'd say those four are probably like, if not my favorites, like among my absolute favorite series of all time. So always a pleasure to talk about Zelda. It's a fantastic series with a few games that don't maybe work quite as well for me, but the vast majority are going to be a good time.
Agreed. I'm like, it's really high up there in my favorite series.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say Metroid to an extent is also up there.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Prime series, but that's neither here nor there.
I like them, but yes.
Yeah. And then I'm just struggling to think of other series that I like. I mean, I do like the Dark Souls series.
Yeah.
But with that, though, we'll call the episode here. So thank you all very much for listening in.
Yeah, this was great. Always a relish a chance to talk with Zelda.
We might have to do this again sometime.
It may well happen again.
Until then, have a good one, guys.
Thanks so much.